Should you buy Dying Light 2? Dying Light 2 is almost 4 months old now and is starting to go on sale, so I thought this would be the perfect time to find out how good or bad Dying Light 2 really is. I heard many things at release, some good, some bad, like a boring story and lackluster gameplay at night, but today I'm going to talk narrative and gameplay with no spoilers. Leave your thoughts down below if you have played Dying Light 2 already. Let's start with the section I know got the most criticism, the story. Dying Light 2 focuses on a guy called Aiden. Aiden is a pilgrim, which is just a word for a guy who explores the world rather than sticking to one city or safe area. Aiden is looking for his lost sister Mia, and along the way meets various factions that can provide help or become a nuisance while Aiden tries to complete this task. That's all I can say really in terms of plot details to avoid spoilers, so let's get to the point. The story is not very good. Do I think it's better than the original Dying Light story? I do, and I know some people don't, but I personally prefer it. You do spend a lot of time doing errands for different factions while learning about who they are and what they believe in until you make your final choice at the end of the game. I really like the factions approach. I never see a flaw in good world building, and I think it really worked here. Some characters are pretty memorable, some are just annoying asses. It's pretty obvious that some characters got more love and attention than others, but that's always going to happen in these kinds of games. Unfortunately, most of this is simply an illusion when it comes to player choice. Sure, you have some decisions to make in Dying Light 2, but most of them are completely pointless. Ever since The Witcher 3 came out, it seems like every open world story game needs to have optional dialogue and choices, etc. But all it really does is hold the game's pacing back if the choices barely matter. In the end, you only have 4 choices of ending, and each of them are basically the same except for one major event in 2 of those endings, so it really is unfortunate that they hyped this up to be a big feature, but in reality, it really is a nothing thing. It doesn't really need to be here, it doesn't have anything to do with anything, really. It's just there to look cool and make you feel like you're having more of an effect than you actually are. Which, you know, is kind of annoying. Now, I still think it's better than Dying Light 1, mainly because I found the characters and the characters' choices far more interesting than the original. Dying Light 2 is much more focused on a human element to push the story forward for characters rather than, we need that Anderson, Crane. Get the Anderson now, Crane. God damn it, Crane. Get the goddamn Anderson, Crane. Because that was the first game, and that was pretty much it. That being said, the biggest flaw for me was the damn cutscenes. The goddamn cutscenes. Whoever wrote these scenes and forced us to stand still while everyone just stares at you and talks with a blank expression for 5 or so minutes. You are evil, man. You know what you were doing, and I don't forgive you. Cutscenes in Dying Light 2 are unbearably long. You think it's over, and then bang, another 2 minutes of pointless exposition, and that's now you have a chance to talk even more, because there's a choice of dialogues. There's a dialogue wheel now. No, I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to this group. Get the fuck out of here. I want to play the game. Listen, I get why the story had such focus this time around, as the original Dying Light got slated for terrible storytelling, and while this story is an improvement, I think a lot of energy was wasted building up factions that in the end didn't really change anything. Some factions are less restrictive, while some factions are more ruthless. That is about it when it comes to the factions. It's the characters that matter. If you're building up connections with these characters, then it will be worth it, but if you don't like these characters, then it's going to be a completely nothing thing. Once again, it's completely up to how you interpret it, which is a dangerous thing to do when it comes to pleasing a general audience. I appreciate the attempt at good storytelling, but unfortunately the pacing and some really odd narrative choices hold Dying Light 2 back. So that's the narrative, but let's get to the part that I absolutely love. The gameplay. If you're enjoying this video, smash that like button and consider subscribing and sticking around. I'd really appreciate it. We do have a Discord, link is in the description down below. Come talk to us. Thank you.
About that, on behalf of all its whores, bandits, and idiots, I christen you a citizen of Villedor. You're about to turn. Get into the light fast. Run.
Dying Light 2 improves quite literally everything when it comes to gameplay. I saw a lot of people complaining Dying Light 2 took a step back, but I'm sorry, I think we played a different game because I was hooked after the first couple hours. However, the first couple hours I was really not feeling Dying Light 2 at all. The running felt clunky, the combat felt weirdly off, and the gameplay was so linear for a good hour or two. man is it so worth pushing through. Combat has improved significantly, adding human enemies that actually know how to fight and take you out, to adding giant super zombies as bosses around the world to gain inhibitors to level 8 and up. Parkour or free running felt really floaty at first, but as I got used to it, I fell in love with it again, man. Dying Light 2 has an incredible movement system, perfectly blending speed, decision making and style all into one package while building on everything the original did. The city is far more vertical, offering new challenges from the original. Gone are the lush beaches of Harran and welcome to the urban hellhole of Villanor. But with height you need safety measures, which is where the paraglider comes in. Yes, you now have a parachute, so you can jump off the tallest building in the game and just parachute across the world. It really is something to behold, especially first person. I mean, you can do it in GTA, but you know, that's still a third person game with a first person mode. This is a first person zombie action thriller horror game, and you get to parachute over the city. It's sick. I love it. This is the closest experience you will get to a first-person Spider-Man game, and I simply loved it. The parkour is fantastic, and while it still has its fair share of bugs, I think this is the best movement system I've seen in a first-person game that isn't just the sole focus like Mirror's Edge. Stealth has been added, although it really is kind of pointless. It may be useful early on in Dying Light 2, but when you enter those dark zones, but after hours of playing you'll become a beast and just walk into these dark zones killing every poor zombie in sight. Combat has more weapon variety and enemy variety and is paced by how you play. There are no guns in Dying Light 2, which I think really suits the gameplay and improves it. Enemies are also more varied, with various heavies, ranged and invulnerable targets tending to swarm you at once, but you have various ways to take them out just like the original, but it looks and feels way better this time around. You have a bunch of side activities varying from your usual Assassin's Creed or Far Cry towers in this case because it's first person, to bandit camps, basic side missions, GRE facilities or dark zones, metro stations, and a few more including parkour, challenges, etc. The amount of content here is pretty damn great, and while it does get repetitive towards the end, it ends up becoming more about style rather than efficiency, which is I was perfectly fine with. It kind of suits what Dying Light 2 is. Most people don't play a zombie game to be efficient, they want style, they want to spin around and chop their legs off and then stomp on their heads. That's what we want to do in a zombie game. We're all insane, aren't we? But yeah, the style over substance, I guess you could say that, but I really enjoyed it. Main missions are okay. There are a few standouts that really get your blood pumping, but most of the time they're not particularly remarkable. One mission has you climb the tallest building in Dying Light 2, and I know that sounds kind of mundane, but somehow they pulled it off. It was awesome. It's amazing what the right music and motivation can do to improve the most mundane part of a game's gameplay loop. There's also a crafting system that you can use, but I do think this is where Dying Light 2 falls flat compared to its original. I didn't spend too much time messing around with the crafting, mainly because it just seemed pretty bare bones compared to Dying Light 1. Dying Light 1 had a pretty good crafting system from what I remember, and that's where most of the replay value came from, but here it's just not the same for Dying Light 2, at least in my experience. It feels a lot more limited, and the UI is a lot more complicated than the first game, from what I remember anyway. I haven't played the first game since last year, something like that, and I definitely like Dying Light 1's crafting system far more. It felt more creative, it felt more controlled, it felt more unique, I guess you could say. Here it's just a couple cool new additions, like you can like shoot fire from your sword, machete, and that's about it. From what I played, I didn't mess around with it too much. Nighttime is also very different. I wouldn't say it's worse, but simply offers a different kind of gameplay loop from its original. More zombies come out and different super zombies appear, but at night this gives you the opportunity to explore dark zones, which is what the night is really about now. Dark zones are basically time limit focused zones full of zombies, stopping you from getting the valuable loot you want. I do have to agree with the majority of the criticism though. I do prefer the original's version of Nighttime. It just felt so much scarier, and the volatiles were a genuine threat, but they are barely seen in Dying Light 2. It makes day kind of redundant because you earn more XP at night, so why wouldn't you play at night? The horror aspect from the night sections have been removed, so there isn't much of an incentive to play during the day. This also counts for the cool uniqueness of the first game, basically having two games in one. First, Daylight is this action thriller game, and then Nighttime is this horror, fucking terrifying, scary, just horrifying game. But that's kind of been lost in Dying Light 2. It's much more of a action thriller rather than an action thriller horror kind of thing, if you know what I mean. Which is, it is a shame they went that way, but I think going in the direction that they've done has improved the gameplay overall. Still though, it would have been nice to have scarier moments. All in all, I think Dying Light 2 got far more hate than it deserved. It's not a flawless masterpiece, but it excels at what Dying Light is all about. A really cool movement system surrounded by a bunch of zombies to kill. I do think Dying Light 2 is absolutely worth buying in 2022, and if money is tight, you should pick it up on sale if you're looking for some good old action zombie fun. Thank you for watching.